Oh my God.
Welcome back to the unofficial commentators. Hello, fellas. How you doing? We got a special episode today, just like every other episode, but special. This time, I have a special guest host. Paki's away. He's dealing with some menstrual cramps and other things of that nature. So the awesome producer has decided to join me in front of the camera today. So Dago, what's going on, man?
Wow, we're good. We're just trying to get rid of Hurricane Maria, and we're just feeling a little bit of the effects. Right now, it's raining, but the northern side of the country has been affected quite a bit. So hopefully, there will be no major damage. Other than that, we're just trying to get this show on the road, getting a good show on.
Rub some tussin on it. I heard it helps.
Oh yeah, I know that.
Yeah. Well,
Shout out to Pushups.
if you didn't already know, I'm recording here from Brooklyn. Dago is in the Dominican Republic, which is suffering the wrath of yet another hurricane. They already had to deal with the Irma scare, and now they're dealing with Maria that tore up in Puerto Rico and now is threatening to move into Dominican Republic. At least Santo Domingo, the capital, is somewhat safe, somewhat quiet, but nonetheless, I know people were taking precautions there. Heart goes out to all of those people in Puerto Rico that had to deal with the flooding and the loss of power and not being communicated with, family outside of the country. And in Mexico as well, they also suffered a great loss with
that was horrible.
a 7.1 hurricane on the earthquake on the Richter scale. I saw some images of houses just falling straight down. That was incredible. I don't know what they build with over in Mexico, but it must have been something really big for houses to just fall apart like that. Like three-story houses just coming straight to the ground. It's insane. It's been a very bad year for natural disasters, man.
Yeah, and the worst thing is they had previous earthquake too. Just about the week after Urban left Dominican Republic, they got struck with a 8.1. So I mean, it's just like piling on right now. And I know what the nature heads are gonna say. I mean, this is Mother Earth making us feel her wrath, but we're feeling it. It's pretty harsh right now.
Getting us back for douches like Justin Bieber and Kevin Durant and that sort of people, huh?
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't know by now, I'm not a big fan of the Kevin Durant. But what else is happening in the world of sports, Dago?
Well, we have a couple of tidbits here and there. And, for example, we have Mr. Giancarlo Stanton going in for 60 homers. He hit 56 last night. So he's fourth closer. And he's going to be the first player in nearly 11 years to get close to 60.
What does 60 home run mean in this day and age? I mean, it doesn't break Roger Maris. It doesn't come close to 73, which is Barry Bonds. So what's the importance of 60 home runs in a year, which, by the way, it seems like everyone is hitting home runs?
Yeah, I get that. But the importance really is that because of the whole steroid issue, everybody that hits over 30 and seems like a sure slugger gets the suspicion on. And Giancarlo is an absolute master, man. And the fact that he's the first player in 11 years to get close to 60 homers, something that hasn't been done, it's pretty special. And we also are witness to the first time, the record-breaking mark of homers in a single season by the collective. It's over 5,000 homers this season.
Everybody's hitting home runs. I don't know what the deal is. Did they juice the ball? Or are they making smaller stadiums?
Well,
Uh,
they made adjustments because the previous years the scoring has been a little bit low, and it's been a little bit lackluster, and so you want to attract the fans back. So why not use the old reliable long ball?
wow. I am surprised to hear you say that it's the ratings have been low and that it's been lackluster. I mean, you being one of the old school guys, I thought that you would
No, I'm
defend
not that. I'm
baseball.
not that. I know what you're trying to get at, but I'm not that old school guy. But I defend a couple of things here and there, and but surely enough, I mean, pitching took over for a good 5 years. Every year was making it seem like it was the year of the pitcher, and the year after that, it was more ridiculous. And right now, and because of the new commissioner, he took over and he wanted to see the score being raised a little bit. So I guess we're seeing the results now. I don't know if the ball is juiced, but it's making a difference.
Cool, 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 cool. All right, so we saw some NFL games. Week two happened, and it happened without many people's number one overall pick in fantasy, David Johnson. What were some of the things that you noticed this week in the NFL?
The Raiders. The Raiders are legit. I know Paki's going to be happy with this, that we're saying this, but, and he's been saying it for a while, but we're going to confirm the Raiders are legit. The Raiders lay us to smack us down on the Jets on Sunday, and it wasn't even close. I mean, Michael Crabtree went crazy, and Jalen Richard, who is not even the main running back, had like 80 something yards. Marshawn Lynch has 45, but that's the most he got. But he got everybody. It seems like everybody had a touchdown.
Only really interested in one game, and it's the New York Giants against the Detroit Lions. And more than anything, it seems to me like the Giants rather, they seem to have given up on this year already. It doesn't seem like Ben McAdoo is a coach that knows how to adjust mid game or even mid year. Like it seems like they will play with a certain deficiency for the remainder of the year, realize there's a deficiency, and then try to fix it, but they fix it in the off season. So the first year he was still an offensive coordinator, they focused on making him a coach, right? He was working on with Eli, getting him to adapt to the playbook, less interceptions, whatever. Then clock management was an issue, so they decided to move away from Top Coughlin, go into Ben McAdoo era. Then McAdoo comes in last year, and it's all about defense. They draft a cornerback. They sign another one in Janoris Jenkins. They upgrade their defensive line. They had JPP coming back after having suffered that hand accident, and he was kind of getting into the rhythm of things. So they went all in on defense, not to mention the emergence of Landon Collins. And then this year, it seems like they went all in on offense. So they signed Brandon Marshall, they signed Evan Ingram, and now all of those signings and all of those moves that were made in the offseason, by the way, now they're noticing that there's a deficiency in the offensive line, and that maybe Eli Manning isn't the quarterback that you want for that playbook. So I don't know, man. If they keep going at this rate, they'll make the necessary changes in the offseason, come back, and they'll have the elite team by the time Odell Beckham Jr. is 30 years old. So I hope they make some changes, now in the present when they still can. And I don't know what these
Yeah,
changes are going to be. I mean, Ben McAdoo already sat in front of a microphone and said he's not going to change Eric Flowers, that's still his left tackle. He's not going to change uh, Eli Manning, even though he threw him under the bus. He's not going to change the running game. If you're not willing to change anything, then how do you expect your team to get any better? I mean, it's the definition of insanity. And props
indeed.
to Paki, by the way, but for saying that while Evan Ingram might have been a really talented pass catcher, he is not a blocking tight end, and the Giants are in desperate need of a blocking tight end. They could definitely do with six players defending Eli Manning versus the five that they have now, if you even count them as five, because I think there's only two guys on that offensive line who are any good.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out that what you just said about Evan Ingram, but I mean, with the not say loss, but with the absence of a Mr. Beckham, I think he needs to play as a regular receiver because I don't think Eli the past two games is getting any is seeing anybody other than Shane Vereen. And which is another point. I mean, that must have you disappointed it's the running back situation in New York.
It's just not working. And if it's not, like, call an audible, go to halftime, make a speech, get people motivated, and just let Eli loose. Let him throw the long ball. Let him throw it up there, and let, Brandon Marshall just slug it out with whoever else is trying to defend him. He is head and shoulders taller than most of the cornerbacks that are defending him, so just let him go up and get some jump balls.
Yeah, and it's a terrible situation for a Giants fan like yourself to be in right now. I know you want things to go better, and hopefully they will.
Well, it's a team that made the playoffs last year, so you would expect nothing less than that. I mean, they upgraded their offense, which was supposedly one of the drawbacks from the Giants. They were winning games, but they can't score 20 points to save their lives. So, what's the point of upgrading your offense if you're going to do the same playbook? You have to play to your strengths. These players that you have do not match that playbook, so get new plays. This is not impossible.
Yeah, I can certainly agree. Another thing that I wanted to get at, I already mentioned it, but the Bengals offensive coordinator got fired this week. And do you think this is going to cause some change in the Cincinnati offense because it's much needed? I mean, Andy Dalton is playing like crap. There's a three-headed monster situation at running back, and it's not getting any better. And AJ Green is disappointing his fantasy owners, and
Well,
it's like a dark situation right now.
not through his own fault. I mean, AJ Green is still AJ Green. He seems healthy. He seems like he's out there, but Andy Dalton just can't get on the ball. And it used to be where you can just throw it up there and have AJ Green make magic for you. But the offensive line in Cincinnati, that's another issue that they can't stop anyone long enough for AJ Green to create separation so that Andy Dalton can get on the ball. Andy Dalton has fumbled. Andy Dalton has thrown the ball away because he's being pressured, and I don't think there's any amount of offensive coordinating that's going to make this any better. You can call the best play in the world, have the best plan in the world, but if your performers are just not performing, then you're going to bomb.
Yeah, that's absolutely understandable. Another thing, I just got some notifications on my phone regarding Mr. Aaron Hernandez. It seems like there was a discovery made today that he had the worst case, the most severe case of CTE for a 27-year-old. And consequently, that his family is suing the NFL and the Patriots on behalf of his daughter because of the CTE findings. So what do you make of that?
Well, this is what the NFL wanted to avoid. This is why I think that situations like Ezekiel Elliott and well, Joe Mixon not so much, but uh, the NFL situations, right? Ezekiel Elliott and anyone else who's going through any kind of domestic violence situation has been handled so poorly because for a fan of the NFL, they won't stop watching because somebody is suspected of domestic violence. They'll still watch. But for the same fan of the NFL, if you're hearing that, players are getting brain injuries, then, the moms and everyone else, they kind of start tuning out. So um, they would have rather dealt with the blowback of the domestic violence than having to deal with this whole concussion issue again. They thought for a while that it had been put behind them. There wasn't any mention of CTE for some time. And then here it goes, concussions rearing its ugly head again in week number 3 of the NFL.
I mean, I think at this point they have to deal with the situation. I know they've been settling with a lot of the retired players, but I think they need to face this head on. This and every other PR situation they can come up with because, like you said, they're handling it very very poorly. So I mean they're still gonna get money. It's the NFL. It's a great sport. People love it, and
Well,
the audience is
my
there.
opinion is not the end all be all. I mean, what is a possible solution there? Just pay out all these former players? All these former players, all they're doing is they're seeing an opportunity for a cash grab, and they're all chiming in. Oh yeah, well helmets were shit when I played, so give me some money. This is just a way for them to make up for the fact that whatever money they made while they were playing football, they probably squandered away on gambling or addiction or some other nonsense like that.
And what I totally agree, there's still the issue where we're having hits to the crown, hits to the head, and that's major cause of concussions and consequently CTE. So this is mostly systematic. I mean, this doesn't come from a coach in the NFL telling their players shout out to Sean Payton though, telling them to hit the head or hit the knee or whatever. I mean, this comes from early age, but this is something that needs to stop if you want to avoid having future CTE complications and such. The thing with the domestic violence, come on. First was the Ray Rice thing. They give him was it a 6-game suspension? And then some other, like Josh Brown, doesn't get nothing. And he's still around in the Giants roster. Ezekiel Elliott gets by on a technicality in a bunch of situations. Joe Mixon, it doesn't seem like it's going to stop. So they have to put a stop to that and make punishment more severe, I think.
Yeah, I think I'd have to document myself a little more before I start answering these things. But fact of the matter is, I just think that they would rather deal with that portion and not the whole concussions thing. Concussions came up last year. Everyone tuned out. Mothers didn't want to have their kids playing football. And if you stop the influx of players moving into the NFL, at a very young age, then you'll eventually lose your sport. But the fact that they have to deal with some domestic violence, one player on one team, they don't really care about that. They can cover that up any which of many ways. One of those ways is just handling it poorly so that you don't really have to suspend your player, but you look like you did.
Okay, so it's much ado about nothing, basically.
If you want to call it that. All right.
All right.
Another thing, immediately after this episode drops, we have a special edition where we talk combat sports with Victor Rodriguez of the Bloody Elbow. So it won't be part of this episode. I'm sure this one's going to be long enough. But you guys can definitely tune in and listen to some of his points of view on the state of combat sports as a whole. We talk a little bit of MMA, we talk some boxing, we talk even some wrestling, for whatever that's worth. But tune in. It's a very good listen, very good interview, and hopefully, he liked his participation here enough to want to come back and do it again. So let's move on to some of what happened during last week's Rivalry Week. That's such a hard word for me to say, man. Rivalry Week.
Yeah.
Well, the highest scoring matchup this week from both teams. Put up your car, look good. Michael Thomas cooked. Des Bryant had his moment. Everyone did what they were supposed to do. And a surprising performance by Javorius Allen, or Buck Allen as they know him, in Baltimore. When Terrence Wentz went down, Buck Allen kind of took the reins, and he just ended the second half on a great, great note. On the other end, again, this was the team that scored the second highest points. Just a tough loss for the Put Up Your Dukes. But bottom line was, he got points from Roethlisberger, Jeffrey, and Evans. Where he missed the boat really was with Thomas Rawls. Thomas Rawls, who is coming back off an injury. You didn't know how they were going to use him yet. I want no part of any running back from the Seattle Seahawks. They have 4 running backs, and when you have 4 running backs, you have no running back. They even ended up sitting Eddie Lacy, even though he was healthy. They made him a healthy scratch. And Travis Kelce was the highest scorer of his team. He just romped and stomped all over Philadelphia. 100 yards, a receiving touchdown. And for him to get that receiving touchdown, he had to jump like 3 defenders. It was a thing of beauty to watch.
Oh, yeah. The man was moving like a wrecking ball, man. That was fun to watch. All right, so I guess I'm going to move on with me. I get the Lucky Award, and my opponent, Mr. ATL fucking Falcons gets the lowest scoring uh, of the Rivalry week. My man Ivan got 82.18 points and basically got next to nothing. He had four players in double digits, and the rest of it was a shameful performance from his team. On my end, I had a big injury from Greg Olson. Uh, Good scoring performance from Mr. Chris Hogan, but overall, I was just lucky because if I would have faced the other league members, I could have lost. So I get that lucky award. So I'm gonna put that along with my two championships.
All right. Well, the biggest blowout this week goes to now being called Mr. Kiko Jones, who beat the motherfucker by 40 points. I did not have a bad point. 93 points. Kiko Jones was scoring in the 20s with players like J.J. Nelson, Rob Gronkowski, and Devontae Freeman. Um, we had a lot of single-digit performances from supposedly big stars, people like Christian McCaffrey, Antonio Brown, and Deshaun Jackson, all disappointed. Um, his defense also underwhelmed, but I don't think the defense only was the problem. It's just you didn't get enough from anyone. A little bit of a surprise there from Trevor Simeon for motherfucking Friendzone, but
Yeah.
other than that, man, a lot of low scores from a lot of these people. And Deshaun Jackson, while Yahoo hasn't had him projected at 10.79 points, he gave you 5.4 points or 5.40, however you want to look at it. The fact of the matter is, this is what Deshaun Jackson is. I mean, unless he gets that great pass that just gets him beyond the secondary and he just runs it in, he's nothing more than a deep threat right now. He's there to take the top off the defense and nothing else. So unless you get a touchdown from him, you're looking at more of these 5-point games going forward. Kind of a waste if you picked him up high in the early rounds, thinking he was going to pan out to be something better.
Yeah, I agree with that. So moving on, we have the matchup with my favorite name is Mr. Fiva, who topped Seeking Joe Punchaho. Mr. Seeking Joe Punchaho had a problem, and that was that he tried to troll everybody and ended up playing himself. My man over here did not start a kicker and did not start a third defensive player. When you look up and down his players, he only had double digit scoring from four, which includes Phillip Rivers, Keenan Allen, and Eric Ebron, along with the defensive player. On Fever's side, he got 30 points from the so-called GOAT, Mr. Tom Brady, and Devontae Adams getting 19 points. He got double digits from AJ Ajayi. Jacquizz Rodgers gave him double digits. Randall Cobb gave him double digits. And that was basically enough for him to get the victory. He had Jimmy Graham, who didn't give him anything, but that was fine because he was facing Mr. Seeking Joe Punchaho, who played himself out.
Yeah, I slightly disagree with your theory that he tried to troll and just forgot. He did do that last week. I know that for certain. This week he was more about just collecting all the available talent. Just take everyone you can so that other people can't take those players, and then drop them, as needed, right? You drop these guys right before you need them, and you pick someone up that you will need if you're challenging to possibly win. But he lost by, it looks like almost 30 points, or maybe a little more, like 32 points. So it wasn't worth it. You just got to take whatever players you manage to round up, particularly, Chris Carson and Mike Tolbers and Jesse James, who weren't part of the team originally. Just kind of keep them for next week and, not give someone else the opportunity to take these players away from you or for them to use them. You drop them on Sunday when they're not available to anyone because they're going to go on waiver for whenever the next day is. And then, you pick up whatever players you're going to need, namely a kicker and a defensive player. It's smart. When he saw that he couldn't win, he basically just held on to them and said, well, whatever.
Yeah, I guess he can also do that to do some trades and see what he gets. because the people that he's been picking up are people that have been on top of the waiver wire list for a lot of riders. So I guess it's a good strategy. So let's move on to another match. Why don't you tell us about your battle with Mr. Soloyo?
Not a whole lot to say there. I mean, this is a game that was won by about 5 o'clock on Sunday. The first games came by, the second came by. I had an amazing lead. Ty Montgomery did his best, bless his heart, to keep up enough. I decided to hit both players on Monday. Could have seen all the not it made much of a difference anyway. I mean, B.J. Goodson ended up not playing. Brandon Marshall only gave me 2 fantasy points, and Matt Prater, he came through with 8 points, but that was just icing on the cake. Those 10 points from those two players, I still would have won even without them. Um, where So Loyal was hurt was with the fact that he stacked Kirk Cousins and Terrell Pryor. Tyreek Hill is in a weird situation because it doesn't look like with all the weapons that Kansas City has that all of them are going to be able to go off at the same time. So far, they haven't had to. And with Kelsey and Kareem Hunt having excellent games, it looks like Tyreek Hill just didn't figure much in the passing game. And we're still waiting for Le'Veon Bell to blow up. I mean, 11 points is way below what we thought. I looked at that projection. Those 17 points against Minnesota, I thought were going to be hard for him to match, much less go over, and that was exactly the case. It looks like besides Ty Montgomery, his second leading scorer was his kicker, Steve Gostkowski. So that's always a bad sign when your kicker is your second highest scorer.
Yeah,
And
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
also on my end, I have Kareem Hunt, who I'm so high on. This is the next big thing. You know, write down where you were when you saw this guy blow up. And when I said that Kareem Hunt is the next big thing, Kareem Hunt stays healthy next year. Look for him to be one of the top five picks in fantasy. And by the way, if you're concerned about how it's going with that head-to-head bet I made with Paki, Kareem Hunt just blew the pants off of Dalvin Cook. Not even close.
All right, well, let's move on to the next battle, which was another heated rivalry between the Power Rangers against the Joel Vasquez's team, who apparently did not bother to give it a name.
Very creative.
Paki,
I think it goes with his slave owner mentality. He just believes that those people are his team. That's his team.
okay,
He owns them. So he's Joel Vasquez's team.
okay, understood.
I mean,
So,
if Trump can put his name on buildings and on pageants and on all these other things, why can't Joel Vasquez put his name on the team? It's Joel Vasquez's team. Don't look for any more science behind it.
yeah, so MAGA with Mr. Joel Vasquez is what you're saying. All right. So Mr. Joel Vasquez had double-digit score from five of his players, but the kicker was one of his highest scorers, and like you said, that doesn't bode well. He had 12 points from James Winston, 13 points from John Henry, 13 points from Leonard Fournette, 10 points from kicker, and 17 points from a defensive player in Buffalo, the cornerback. So that was good enough for him, but apparently not good enough to beat Paki. So I guess Paki notches down this victory in rivalry.
It was about time he got one. It's not much of a rivalry if you can't keep your opponent on his toes. And it looks like he took this one, and now we have to wait for a rubber match. By the way, Jordan Howard, 0.70 fantasy points. He looked awful. Nine
Yeah,
attempts, only 7 yards. I think he might be hurt right now.
he had his shoulder injury.
And when playing from behind, he's not going to make it onto the field. The team actually prefers Tariq Cohen. This is bad, man. I don't know why Chicago can't give you one good running back 2 years in a row. I mean, Jeremy
How many?
Langford.
Exactly. I was going to say that. How many running backs have they gone through for the last 4 years? It's been Matt Forte, Jeremy Langford, Jordan Howard, and now Tariq Cohen.
I don't know what's going on there, man, but it's not a good look right now for the Chicago Bears. They haven't gone as far as other teams to say that they're tanked, but they might well. That team is just a dumpster fire.
Indeed. So you with the very, very, very heated rivalry between Martian of the Dead and the 20-plus push-up team. who themselves made a bet for $1,000.
$1,000. Well, this week he was all in leaders, which was a really appropriate name. Changed it. He was playing against a 20 push-up team. Last week when we did the reviews, I actually ended up 20 push-up team. Last week when we did the reviews, I actually ended up picking Dallas. I think it's a very balanced team. They did score a lot of points even in the loss. And with all that being said, Brito had all of his players on the bench, and it's really hard for you to kind of gauge how you think the team is going to go when you have to fill in the blanks yourself. Nonetheless, when I got down to putting up who I would make his optimal lineup, it looked pretty much like the lineup that he put out there, and yes, that team was way better. Unfortunately, I had already made my pick on air, so not much I can do or say about that. But when he put all his players up onto his final roster, and loaded them, they were pretty even. And through the first the 1 o'clock games, they were still pretty even. It could have gone either way, but 4 o'clock games, in particular, that Raiders game was the difference. Michael Crabtree and Marshawn Lynch had stellar games. Crabtree, in particular, 29 fantasy points was amazing. Add to that 23 points from Todd Gurley, and that was pretty much all she wrote. He just went head and shoulders away with that matchup. On the other side, it seemed like there wasn't even a point in playing anymore. Jordy Nelson decided not to show up. He said, what the hell? We're not going to catch Marshawn of the dead anyway, so I'm not going to put myself out there, expose myself to get hurt. Forget this. Drew Brees did exceed expectations, but that was pretty much your only highlight. Carlos Hyde did better than I expected at playing against Seattle, but fact of the matter is that's the only source of offense that we have coming out of San Francisco. And apparently he proved that you can run against Seattle. They're more of a passing defense. That being said, it doesn't seem to me like Jordy Nelson would have made a difference, but when it's all said and done, it looks like Daryl Olito $1,000. And it's up to him to get paid. So thank you for everyone who watched all of my clips regarding Rivalry Week. I hope more than react to what's going on in the NFL, big plays, important contributions to fantasy. All of those videos that we recorded, about 8 or 9 total, were all viewed over 40 times. So that's props in and of itself. So thanks for all of the followers who kept us relevant over the weekend.
Yes, sir. Thank you for everybody. I want to
20-plus push-up team coming off the $1,000 bet. He's going to play Zeke and Joe Punch-a-Hole this week. What does Zeke and Joe Punch-a-Hole do to get their first win on the board?
Well, he gave, of course, but if you look at this lineup, I don't think this is what he's going with. We know Victor, Victor, has done this before where he trolls the viewers, let's say, and shows a weak hand so that you will fall for it and think you have a very, very easy matchup.
This is just a stupid strategy. I don't understand who this is intended to fool. I mean, is anyone really going to put up like a weaker or lower scoring roster or lineup and just say like, oh, maybe this is the week that I want to try a sleeper because this guy's putting out this garbage. So, I mean, it's obvious he's not going to start Ezekiel Elliott, who's sitting on his bench. I mean, he knows Ezekiel Elliott's going to have a bad game. This is dumb. I don't know why you would even do that. Just put your optimal lineup always on the field, and then, we can all talk about it. But it is what it is. They decide to play these dumb games, and if you forget to set your lineup, you kind of
they ruined the fun. They ruined the fun of analyzing whatever they have.
You just kind of reap what you sow, really. Drew Brees is, of course, going to play even against Carolina, which is not a great matchup. But if you have Drew Brees, you're starting Drew Brees. There's no better option than him. He's going to throw the ball regardless. It doesn't matter what kind of matchup he's in. Jordy Nelson, he was a late scratch, I guess you can call that, or he was a scratch before the game against Atlanta. He's looking to play against Cincinnati. You're expecting big points from him. I think with the injury to Randall Cobb that kept him out for the remainder of that game, you're going to rely a lot more on Jordy Nelson. So consider this a Jordy Nelson game. He'll have a big one. And Carlos Hyde, his replacement is nowhere near the level of talent of Carlos Hyde, and that offense is all revolves around him. We saw how poorly that works out for when you're the focal point of the offense. Just go and check out Todd Gurley last year. When they can stack the box against you, there's really uh, not much you can do. Carlos Hyde is someone who probably fell into the deeper role. So if you're a fantasy player and you drafted Carlos Hyde and you have someone else, and you're just looking at Carlos Hyde as kind of a flex spot, this may not be the week you want to start him. I mean, against the Los Angeles Rams, Los Angeles has a stout front seven, so I don't foresee big things from Carlos Hyde. Well, that being said, I man, that being said, even with DeMarco Murray losing more and more touches to Derrick Henry, stacking the box against Carlos Hyde and everything else, I think that I had said I was going with 20 plus push up team. I have no idea why. Oh, maybe it's because of some of these matchups.
Yeah,
Uh,
his matchups are much more favorable than whatever Chicken Joe Punchao have. Like for example, Ezekiel Elliott, even though he's a elite running back, he's going against Arizona, and that's a tough defense. Uh, Brandon Cooks is going against Houston. Mixon is not something you would write home about, and whatever he's putting in as a troll lineup is
he's
I don't know.
not he's not a guarantee. I don't like Brandon Cooks. I don't foresee Eric Ebron repeating what he did last week. And he's still two players short. It looks like he's going to go 9 to 11. I know last minute he'll drop and pick something up, but I don't like a lot of the matchups here. Unfortunately, I think that Zeke and Joe Punchaho goes 0-3. I'm going to pick the 20 plus push up team this week.
Yeah, give me 20 plus push-ups too.
All right, the next matchup we have is the FIBA FU Ben Affleck. He's going to be playing against Joel Vasquez. Joel Vasquez.
And I see that my man is running Jameis Winston against Minnesota, and that's not a favorable matchup at all. He can go ahead and keep AJ Green. He's having Landry Fournette, Giovanni Bernard,
I'm sorry,
Burnett.
I'm looking at this roster and I'm like, who the hell is he talking about? Jameis Winston is what you were trying to say?
Yeah, Jameis Winston.
Jameis. Oh, that's the first time I hear that pronunciation. Okay, Jameis Winston.
Jameis
Go ahead.
Winston, whatever. Yeah, so he's got Fournette, Bernard as running back. Bernard's not getting anything going, but maybe he has a chance against Green Bay. Demarius Thomas against Buffalo, that's a favorable matchup. Jared Cook against Washington. Maybe he gets something going, but I mean, Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree are going to get all the targets. And his bench is Larry Fitzgerald, Tyler Eifert, who's basically out, and Say Jones and Richard, who may not repeat his performance last week against Washington. So I don't see this as a very favorable matchup for Mr. Vasquez. What do you see on FIBA?
If you drafted Tom Brady, you're starting him. It doesn't matter that Houston plays well against them. Kansas City also played well against them, but Tom Brady still got his points somewhat. Devontae Adams, without Randall Cobb, Devontae Adams may have a bigger role, but remember, we're getting Jordy Nelson back, so he might not meet those 13 projected points unless he gets some kind of touchdown there. I do not like Martavius Bryant. I feel like there's too many mouths to feed. Also, we have Ben Roethlisberger playing on the road. That's never a good sign. Although he's questionable now, you know that Jay Ajayi is going to find a way to play this game. Jacquizz Rodgers is still going to play. I don't know what Gary's plan is going forward. I mean, Doug Martin comes back. We're probably going to see the end of Jacquizz Rodgers very, very soon. And it may look like you're either going to play a number two back for the rest of the year, or you go with Paul Perkins, who is not in an ideal situation at running back. That being said, for this week, he has a definite problem at tight end. I don't like any of the current tight ends that are on his roster. but Tom Brady may just be enough to overcome. Oh man, you know what? The only real flaw that I see in Joe Vasquez's team is Giovanni Bernard. I see a couple of holes and bad matchups in FIBA. I'm going to go with Joel Vasquez's team this week.
I see the same problem at running back for FIBA, and his tight end situation is not that good. So give me Backus.
All right, the next matchup we got is Mr. Keko Jones against designated car driver, wearing a black ribbon this week for this reason. Um, designated car driver, Derek Carr has been a stud the last two outings. I don't expect anything less from him this time. Just as long as he kind of avoids Josh Norman, he'll be okay. Michael Thomas, I'm still waiting for Michael Thomas to earn his potential as a number 13 overall pick. Des Bryant is a good pickup. Um, Probably going to be matched up in Arizona against Patrick Peterson, which is not a really good pick for him. But, however, it looks like Dak Prescott has found a little bit more of a rhythm with Des Bryant. We have the same situation we've always had at running back for Donnie's team, and it's kind of just hoping that someone gets injured so that he gets the lion's share of all the touches. It looks like he's going to start Buck Allen. I don't know. I mean, he obviously didn't know that Terrence West was going to not play the latter portion of last week's second half. So he started Buck Allen anyway. This is just probably who you have. But if teams have to prepare for Buck Allen, I don't think that he'll have the kind of output that you expect from him. One player that I really dislike from this team is Amir Abdullah. Amir Abdullah is kind of in a limbo. He's was a standout player in in preseason situations, but other than that, he's looked very, very weak in any of his NFL performances. If you're a player that has Abdullah, I hope you back them up with Theo Riddick, and if you do have both of them, I'm starting Riddick over Abdullah anytime. In this particular situation, I wouldn't be afraid to start Shane Vereen over Abdullah. I mean, the projected points aren't that far apart, and I know, especially in a PPR league, that Shane Vereen is going to get his, even if it's in garbage time.
Yeah, I kind of agree with your assessment there. And let's go over the Keko Jones side. Keko Jones has Tyrod Taylor against Denver. It's not a favorable matchup for the quarterback who runs for his life and doesn't pass that much. Devontae Parker gets the New York Jets, sorry. And that's a favorable matchup. J.J. Nelson is going against Dallas. That's good. Devonta Freeman gets Detroit. Detroit's not a defense to get scared. So Devonta Freeman is going to do Devonta Freeman's thing. Mike Gillislee is the running back for the New England Patriots, and they're going against Houston. Houston's going to play them tough, but I think James White is the running back to have, and not Mr. Mike Gillislee. Although Gillislee is like fulfilling the position that Mr. LeGarrette Blount had last year. Jordan Reed is questionable, and when hasn't he been questionable? Because he usually has an injury on him. Chris Thompson is the flex option for Adelaide, and I think Mr. Chris Thompson is the best back out of the whole backfield in Washington. His bench looks a little bit better because he got Punches, who's gonna get more touches now that Olsen is down. Gronkowski's there, so Gronkowski is his second best option, and then Pierre Garcon, and I don't know why Adelaide has C.A. Yeldon there, but it's a backup, and then Alan Hearns, who's gonna be seeing more targets now, but it's facing Baltimore, so that's gonna be a little bit tough. If we're gonna pick, give me Donnie.
You're taking Donnie, and with good reason. He was the leading scorer last week. I don't see a lot of those repeat performances. I'm actually going to go with Mr. Kiko Jones on this one.
All right.
Your analysis, man. You just went through everyone, including all of his bench players. Jesus, keep it shorter.
All right, sorry.
Okay, so next matchup is motherfucking Friendzone playing against Martian of the Dead. Oh man, there's no doubt that although they're not figuring right now, well, actually they are figuring right now. He has Marshawn Lynch, Todd Gurley, and LaShawn McCoy all on there. That in and of itself is enough reason for me to think that this team is going to win. Um, those three can give you a combined 45 points. That's more than half of what I expect the motherfucking friend zone to pick. I don't know what pick Brito had, but for him to end up with Marshawn Lynch, Todd Gurley, and LaShawn McCoy must have been a sweet goddamn pick. I mean,
He had pick number 6
the
because
only better,
he was trying to trade picks with me.
yeah, man. I mean, the only better situation would have been mine at number one, but without the DJ, it looks like fool's gold on my end. Um, some of the people that are on this bench that are going to play are going to be obviously Michael Crabtree. I would start Zach Ertz of the tight end conglomerate that we have here, and I'm saying that Cam Newton against New Orleans is definitely a better start than Carson Palmer. They both have favorable matchups. None of these defenses are great, but by far New Orleans is the worst. Although Cam Newton hasn't looked great in the last two outings, he's vowed to play better this week. So keep an eye on Cam. If you have Cam, start him. Maybe this begins a turnaround for a team that's already 2-0, by the way. And for God's sake, man, just drop Nelson Aguilar. I guess if you have the spot to just waste on Nelson Aguilar, you can afford to just go ahead and troll me all you want. But this is not a guy who needs to be owned in any fantasy league.
All right, so we got your nice analysis there. Let's find Mr. Motherfucking Friendzone is running Trevor Siemian as quarterback, and let's see if he repeats against Buffalo. Although that's a nice favorable matchup. Antonio Brown is going to run all over Chi-Town, and that's not even a joke. Kelvin Benjamin, if he doesn't get to the end zone against New Orleans, it's now or never. And I heard people say that for a while now. McCaffrey, I don't know. McCaffrey hasn't done much, but he's getting a 12-point projection. And then he has Bennett as tight end, Jackson as wide receiver, and then he has 3 quarterbacks as his bench. Doug Martin is suspended. He's going to come back next week, and he has Ever Ingram. So guess who I'm picking?
Who are you picking?
Martian of the Dead.
Well, if it wasn't already blatantly obvious to you, it looks like a trade went through here. He ended up with who you had as a backup.
Quarterback,
yeah. He traded and he got Matthew Stafford. So as it stands, he's carrying a total of 4 quarterbacks on his roster. Not a good look, man. Get rid of some of these players and fill in where you can. Matthew Stafford has looked okay the last few outings. Trevor Siemian actually has a better match this one. I don't know if he made the trade. I mean, it looks like might have been better off just playing Siemian the rest of the way, just riding that hot streak until Andrew Luck comes back. But it is what it is, man. I can't manage every team. Matthew Stafford probably makes it to the starting lineup. That being said, I do not know who the heck he's going to start at the second running back position. So you're probably going to pick up somebody from the waiver wire. Someone who's deep in the waiver wire. Drop Eli Manning. It's about time. There's no point in keeping Eli Manning when you have all these other quarterbacks there, and there's still one more week before Doug Martin comes back. So it's not looking good. It's a very depleted team. I don't like it, and I'm also going to go with Martian of the Dead.
All right, so we got that pick done, and let's move on to the Power Rangers again.
A little bit of bad luck. Put Up Your Dukes hasn't got his first win, despite scoring a whopping 132 points. I think that's better than what I did in either one of my 2 weeks, and I'm currently number 1 of all the fantasy teams. ATL fucking Falcons. They have the Falcons who are carrying the probably the most potent offense in the NFL, definitely in the NFC. We have Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Those are two players who are guaranteeing you a significant amount of points. I would say that between the two of them, they'll get a good 30 points combined. Doug Baldwin, I don't like. I don't like the offensive line situation in Seattle. I don't like the fact that Russell Wilson is not getting the chance to connect with Doug Baldwin. Russell Wilson is lucky to connect the pass with anyone he can at this point. He's basically just out there uh, playing the magic man. The running backs for this team suck. Uh, Tevin Coleman doesn't suck, but I just don't like the situation that he's in. It's clearly Devontae Freeman's game role, and LeGarrette Blount has no role, not as of yet. I don't like Austin Hooper. Again, he had one good game. Don't get too high on him. You should probably look to find some kind of replacement soon for Austin Hooper going forward the rest of the way. And yeah, man, that's kind of the situation on the ATL Effing Falcons.
Yeah, on the put up your Duke side, I'm looking at the matchups, and I see Alshon Jeffrey going against the Giants and Mike Evans going against Minnesota, two of the toughest defense in the league, and those are not very good matchups. I checked out his bench, and he doesn't have any, other than Sammy Watkins and Jordan Matthews, he doesn't have any other favorable matchups going there. I think I would put, let's see, I would go with Sammy Watkins over Alshon Jeffrey because of the matchup on the defense. His running back situation is fine, although I could put up Derrick Henry against Seattle. Derrick Henry is going to get all the touches going forward. And the tight end situation is Kelsey against the Chargers, and Kelsey is fine. Kelsey is a stud at tight end, so we don't have a problem there. But we have Ben against Chi-Town outside of his palatial state in Heinz Field, so that's not good either because it's well documented. Ben Roethlisberger doesn't do well again out of his comfort zone.
Yeah, I agree with you for the most part. I still would start Frank Gore. I take a starter over Derrick Henry any day of the week. It's not official whether or not DeMarco Murray is not going to play. So as long as DeMarco Murray is a starter, Derrick Henry is still a hit or miss option. But you keep him there because at some point you know that DeMarco Murray is going to go down for the remainder of the year, and then it'll squarely be on Derrick Henry's shoulders. In this game, though, I just don't like too many things about ATL fucking Falcons. I'm going to take the Dukes.
Surprisingly, I took the Dukes as well, so we're matching there. So moving on, we go to the matchup here, which was the Power Rangers against Solo and Yamato.
You did good team. So,
Yeah.
I mean, Paki's team is pretty bad. We got the first win last week. I foresee this team going 2-0. Unfortunately, I think that Guicaldi plays some games there with cousin Juan, telling him about all these wins that he had in all these other leagues and all this other nonsense. It hasn't paid off so far, man. The stacking there hasn't worked out. Le'Veon Bell coming off to a slow start. Okay, anyway, I'm going to stick on the side of the Power Rangers. Aaron Rodgers against Cincinnati. Cincinnati has looked very bad so far, so expect Aaron Rodgers to have his typical Aaron Rodgers game and then some. Stephon Diggs is kind of a beast. I don't like the matchup, and we are still to get confirmation of whether or not Sam Bradford is going to be throwing the ball to him. If he's going to go out and catch passes from the backup again, downgrade Stephon Diggs. Emmanuel Sanders had an excellent game last week, against Dallas. I think that Buffalo's defense is a little bit more capable than Dallas, so that spells a little bit of regression, at least from last week, for Emmanuel Sanders and C.J. Anderson. Jonathan Stewart, it's kind of a curious move there. I guess that Paki just doesn't trust Jordan Howard in his current situation, and maybe
I wouldn't trust it either.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't like Bilal Powell against Miami. Miami is pretty stocked up front, but I think I would still go with Bilal Powell in this situation over Jonathan Stewart. I mean, it looks like, even though I know what he's doing there, he's playing Jonathan Stewart against New Orleans, it still looks like it's Christian McCaffrey's role. He just hasn't really found his way into it yet. In I know Jonathan Stewart is just kind of getting the scraps for me in this one. And Odell Beckham Jr. questionable, supposedly going to be playing more snaps than he did last week, but who's to say what's really happening there with the way they're going so far? I mean, maybe Odell Beckham gets one of those 4 yard catches and turns it into a touchdown, but until they give Eli Manning the go ahead to just launch the ball, whether it results in a interception or not, you got to let him loose, man. Free
Yep.
Eli Manning.
All right. So, I mean, I don't know what to say about Mr. Garabato Soloyo, but he's got some favorable matchups. Although Oakland's defense is pretty good. Le'Veon Bell is gonna go against Chicago, so that's pretty good. Ty Montgomery is gonna do Ty Montgomery things against Cincinnati. Kyle Rudolph, although I don't know there, I could go with Antonio Gates, the old man, and the old man in the touchdown situation in the tight end. You go with Ty Williams against Kansas City. I don't think that's good because Kansas City likes to rush. His next replacement in wide receiver is Kenny Britt, so not a good situation. Although he can go to Marquez Lee, but Marcus Lee is going against Baltimore. So I don't know who's gonna get the better looks against Baltimore, either he or Alan Hearns. So I mean, I picked Paki. Paki's got the better matchups and basically the better players. Although I don't know, Ty Montgomery and Le'Veon Bell can swing things against Garabato Soloyo's favor.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's happening here, but I think that So Loyal needs to make a big move, a significant move. They're not getting the most out of their waiver pickups. It seems like they're just kind of, I don't know, just kind of spinning around in the defensive end, not doing a whole lot. Somehow Isaiah Crowell does not make your starting lineup. I guess I get it, but you drafted Isaiah Crowell high enough for him to always be a starting running back. I don't know. Maybe by week 3 they're ready to give up on him and move on. Uh, you know what? I think it's going
You
to
backing up
be.
your cousins? You backing up your cousins?
I mean, I beat both of these teams. I really could care less. With the fact that Jason Witten is probably not going to live up to his hype, and there's a supposed injury to Dak Prescott, so maybe they're not throwing so much to Witten. Um, they're definitely going to want to feed Ezekiel Elliott. With Jonathan Stewart currently on your starting lineup, I know that there's still a chance to make some changes, and with the lack of like tackles on your defense, because you got all these pass rushers, but all they really do is kind of go after the quarterback. They don't score a lot in the way of tackles for you. I think I'm actually leaning towards So Loyal on this one. So this is going to be an interesting one. I think at the end of this matchup, both of these teams are going to be 1-2. I'm going So Loyal for this one.
All right. Well, let's lock in our picks and we move to the last matchup. Dagoberto.
So yeah, we have the Compadre Bowl this week. Two teams that are 2-0, and as I look over into this camera and I see your face, the only thing I can think about is it was Angel's birthday last weekend. So hey, clap it up for Angel. Happy birthday. She is officially 6-year-old. She is the official child of the Unofficial Commentators podcast.
The official child. All right. Well, I want to wish her a very happy birthday. May all the good things come to her, and may all the suckage come to you because you're going to lose this weekend. How about
I highly doubt it. It looks
that?
like you're going to start at the beginning of the year, looked like a very decent pickup. But so far, I guess he's just like some really bad matchups. He's going to be in Seattle. Seattle has a way of getting to the quarterback and also bend passes well. So it could be just a pedestrian day for Marcus Mariota. Marcus, this question, I don't know really health condition. The fact of the matter is that it's going to be a close game against Washington. It's going to come down to who Josh Norman decides to shadow because it's clear that he's kind of a shadow cornerback nowadays. And if he
Yeah.
goes and shuts down Amari Cooper, it's going to be a very bad day for you. The New England defense has looked vulnerable, but I do believe that Houston plays them very well. So that's an opportunity for DeAndre Hopkins to finally, or not finally, but to get back into the end zone. I like that. I know that Melvin Gordon is someone who's guaranteed to give you a touchdown. You completed a trade, and now you have Mark Ingram starting. I don't I don't know what to think about Mark Ingram. You have Kamara also on your bench. You have Kamara also on your bench. Uh, I don't like the running back situation in New Orleans. They're pass first. He's
Yeah,
projecting
but the
nine and
thing
a
is
half
that
fantasy points.
Ingram is featured in the passing, so there's an advantage there.
I don't know. Charles Clay is touchdown dependent, and I haven't figured out the role of Chris Hogan. Is he the long option? Is he the possession guy? I don't know
I think
because
he's a long option, but
yeah,
he's getting looked because Amendola is down and out.
uh, I don't know. Again, Houston played them very well. Hopefully, this is a game that J.J. Watt can get back on track and then put some real pressure on Tom Brady, and we might see some Brady magic. But big game. I see a lot of mouths to feed over in New Orleans. I'm not feeling it with Chris Hogan.
All right, on your side, I mean, we got Russell Wilson running for his dear life as usual, and in September he's sucking. Jeremy Maclin is going against Jacksonville. Jacksonville is a very good defense. Brandon Marshall is going against Philly, and he's having this whole I'm sucking for the last two games situation.
I
I have
think that this week the Giants, the big change they're going to make is just to unleash Eli Manning. Let him
all right,
toss the ball. Let him play some playground ball. Let him do these 3 yard, 4 yard little dump offs. Enough of that
all right.
shit.
So this is your sweeping during this the Brandon Marshall weekend.
This is when it's going to.
Weekend.
This is when it's going to turn around for Brendan Marshall.
All right. So my biggest fear on your lineup is basically Kareem Hunt.
As he
'Cause
should be.
yeah, yes he is. But then you got Kobe Fleener and Kendall Wright, who's going to get Pittsburgh, and Chi-Town's going to get smashed to bits.
I'll have you know that Kobe Fleener has scored a touchdown in each of the last 2 games. So
Yeah, but that's going to last you not that much until Willis Snead comes back. So
coming back this week.
no, that's true. Understood. On your bench, you got Terrence West and David Johnson is injured. Fine. This is going to last you about this week.
Next to my team, it says 9-8-2-0, and then it says first. First means I'm better than
So
you.
next in mine is 2-0 as well. I mean, that's nothing. And you
And
know,
third.
so I'm the third who has 2-0. Is that a difference?
Yeah, I mean, I
Uh,
scored more points than you.
right. You garble a little bit there. No.
Did not score
Yeah.
more points than you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Not even
Fine.
doubting it. All right, well, at the end of this week, one of these two teams will no longer be on your team. And, yeah, I think that's what we're going to call it. So let's wrap it up. Let's end the show. Guys, when you're finished watching the show, stay tuned. We have a special about combat sports with our special guest from the Bloody Elbow. Victor Rodriguez is going to come in and give us some of his opinions on what's been going on in the world of combat sports, MMA, boxing, and wrestling. As usual, follow the unofficial commentators on YouTube. Don't just follow us, just watch the episode, but also subscribe. Click that little bell so you know when we come out. We do not harass you with dozens of beeps and clicks and notifications. It's
We're
possibly
not viral. We're responsible content.
it's
We're
one
good.
show, maybe 2 shows a week. I mean, come on. And tell a friend. I mean, if you like the show, if you like what you see, people come and tell me how much they like my show, but I already watched the show. I record it. Tell someone who hasn't watched the show and get them hooked on it. And
Get the word
also,
out.
yeah, and go and follow the unofficial commentators on Twitter. We are at UC_podcast. Follow us on Instagram if you like what we did last week at unofficial commentators. There's going to be more of that. Just reacting to what we see, giving some comments on potential fantasy tilting plays in the NFL, and just on general news that I come across. And follow us also on SoundCloud. We're there. Follow us. Where else haven't I mentioned? Facebook. We're still the unofficial commentators.
Yes.
And follow some of our partners, man. The Report Card Podcast. Follow Dago at AstroFunk over on Twitter, where he's going to tell you to follow us on at UC_podcast, and it's going to become a not a vicious circle, but a wonderful circle of fun and family.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I like that twist over there. That's it.
I will see all of you guys in week 4 when I will be 3-0 talking about the next jabroni whose ass I'm going to whip.
Right.
Dagoberto, thank you very much for filling in for Paki in his absence. Paki, I hope you feel better. Everyone in the Dominican Republic, stay up, stay strong, stay safe out there.
Yes.
Protect yourself from all of the storms. A moment of silence for all of those that have passed this week. It's been a very, very bad week, man, for just so many
Indeed.
reasons. And that's going to be it for me. Doc, if you have anything else to say it now. Otherwise, forever hold your peace.
Peace out, people. Take care. All right. We basically got the episode in like an hour 10. That's good.